how excited we are about this brand new album. We've been able to start playing the new single on our show, and it's already been getting people writing in and requesting it, so congratulations.
Oh, nice. That's what I like to hear.
So mate, tell us a little bit about this new album, because one of the things that really intrigued me was that I read a quote saying that there's a little bit of a different style this time around. So tell us a little bit about this album and what we can expect to hear on it.
Well, I mean, it's still very much a Psycroptic album in the way that Joe's guitar playing is just Joe's guitar playing. And it's kind of got its own sound. But I think we've got quite a few songs on it have sort of got more of I suppose an atmospheric sort of vibe to it. There's still a few stereotypical, flat out blasting songs, but yeah, I suppose it's an album that song to song it's very varied, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so I suppose it's almost like we've taken our favourite bits from the last few albums and kind of expanded on them. I suppose it's kind of hard to say.
Yeah.
Hard to explain, really.
Was it something that you guys set out to do going into this album, or was it something that just kind of happened organically as you were writing the tracks?
I think with most of our stuff, it's pretty organic, really. I mean, it generally starts with Joe sort of writing the backbone of the song, and then the rest of us kind of chime in and help build it. But yeah, I think it's just, I mean, we don't generally set out when we start writing and go, well, we want to do a faster album, or we want to do a more techie album, or a more atmospheric album. It's kind of like Joe just gets writing, and what he sends through is, sort of what we build on, basically.
Was there anything kind of inspiring the lyrics this time around? Like, the world has been a pretty crazy place over the last few years. Was there?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you turn on the news, there's not a lot of good on there, really, is there? So, I mean, I think, the last two albums, maybe even three, have very much sort of been touching on modern day topics. I suppose the downfalls I see of society and humanity and, what would you say, like environmental issues and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, there's not a lot of positive in there, really. but it definitely, I suppose, with all the stuff with COVID and the wars and the environmental issues, it does make drawing ideas for writing lyrics a lot easier these days, which is an unfortunate thing with all this shit that's going on around the place.
Well, what makes you say it makes it easier? Is it because you get passionate about things, or the world?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I suppose we've never been a band that, like, personally, that we get on social media and, preach what we believe in, and, we're not, social warriors on that side of things, but we've always been a band that everything's done through our music, really. So I suppose it just, I don't know, we've got something to say, and the music's the platform we use to say it, I suppose, essentially, rather than directly going out on our social medias and stuff and yelling it at the world. We yell it at the world through our music, I suppose.
So, how has the last couple of years been for you personally? Of course, you guys haven't been able to do shows or anything like that. So, how have you felt personally over the last few years?
It's been a different time because, well, with me and Joe being in Tasmania, all the lockdowns and COVID stuff hasn't really affected us in our day-to-day lives down here, because we just didn't really have any of it until, sort of January this year. COVID wasn't really a thing in Tasmania. But, yeah, the being isolated from the rest of the world kind of was a bit strange, not being able to tour was a very weird one. I mean, it was 2 years that me and Joe, we'd be working in the studio together every week. But we spent 2-year period where we didn't see Dave at all, which was a bit weird. We still haven't seen Todd, our bass player. I think we're up to nearly 3 years since we've seen him now. So everything's just been done via sort of correspondence, you know, email and that, and even especially recording the EP when we did that. That was all recorded in different studios all over the world, and then with the new album as well, that was all recorded in, what was it, four different studios. So me and Joe were the only two that actually worked together in the same studio.
You mentioned about Tasmania being away from a lot of it, and I found the same because a lot of my family still live in Tasmania. Did you almost feel like you guys were on the outside looking into this craziness that was happening on the mainland?
Yes, definitely. And we were in touch with Dave constantly during it because, we're working on albums and stuff like that, and just hearing all his frustration from someone in there, you know, living amongst it and having to have, you know, like permits so he's allowed to drive to work at his warehouse, and, you know, having police checks that he's actually got a permit to work and stuff like that. You know, to us it just seemed crazy because we had lockdown, I think it only went for like 4 weeks right at the beginning of it.
Yep.
And it was not strict. You know, if you worked in tourism or a certain few industries, yeah, it crushed some businesses. There's no doubt about that, which sucks. But, you know, general day-to-day, the lockdowns weren't really shit, you know. And then just hearing about all this craziness worldwide and, you know, seeing pictures of what would normally be a busy city street just being absolutely dead, it was kind of like, fuck, this is weird, because to us, yeah, apart from the fact that we couldn't leave our island, it was kind of like business as usual, really. I was probably busier with work than I ever have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it make it difficult for Dave to do his part of the album? Because I know for a lot of us over here, the record studios and recording studios were closed at that time.
So, well, he was in a fortunate position because he's got his business direct merch, which is the online like metal merchandise company.
Yeah.
The warehouse that he works out of, I think there's a recording studio sort of space in there.
Yep.
Which he managed to work in. So I think he actually recorded all his drum parts, I think, within his studio. It wasn't, within his workplace, or if it wasn't actually in his workplace, it wasn't far from his workplace, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he managed to make it happen.
When you said before about recording in 4 different studios, does that almost make it feel like a jigsaw puzzle when you have to put everything together at the end of it?
Yeah, no. With the way that recording's done these days, it is all done individually anyway. So,
yeah.
If anything, it was hard work for Joe to actually mix and master and try to figure out what every other studio engineer had sort of done, rather than him actually recording everything himself. But yeah, apart from that, I don't think it was too much of a big drama, really. It wasn't. It was weird that we couldn't actually be in the studio when Dave's tracking drums and go, hey, no, maybe try this or do that or whatever. From that side of it was probably a little bit weird, especially for Joe, because Joe normally, and Dave, so Dave's away in the studio working with his brother. So I think for those two, it probably would have been a little bit more different. For me, it wasn't really any different at all, though.
Yeah. So what are your plans now that everything's opening back up? Will you guys look at getting together at some stage and working through these tracks with the hope of touring in the future, or what are the plans now?
Well, we've done a few shows so far. We did 2 shows in Tassie at the start of the year. We played Full Tilt Fest Melbourne. We did a club show in Melbourne, and we did New Dead Festival in Adelaide about a month ago. So we have been out, and we've done enough shows to kind of get us hyped back on it again, but not enough that it feels like we've got some routine with it. But
yep.
Yeah, we are sort of looking. Oh, Dave's actually, I think, coming down to Tassie on this weekend actually, and we're going to start sort of rehearsing and probably start working through a few new tracks, which is always fun. Well, sometimes fun, sometimes frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're hoping that, you know, sort of later in the year there might be the prospect of maybe getting overseas. Hopefully looking, I don't reckon this year, but hopefully next year, sort of get back into, getting back into a full Australian tour next year with any luck. Hopefully getting out to Europe again. So we're hoping, basically, if everything stays the way it is now, that with any luck we should be business as usual by, you know, late this year, early next year.
Awesome.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Anyway.
One of the things I've noticed with people at shows since we've gone back after COVID has a lot of people have been saying that they've realized that during their life they've taken shows for granted. Like for a lot of us, we've been going to a couple of shows a week ever since we were 15, and for me that's 25 years now. So
yeah.
Do you feel the same way, that in a way we kind of all took shows for granted and now we've realised just how special they are?
Yeah, I definitely would agree. And from an artist's point of view as well, I mean, you just look at the schedules that, you know, a lot of us were keeping with our touring and stuff for a lot of years. And I actually had this same conversation in a podcast I did the other week, that it got to the point where you'd be looking at going to do a show almost as like a task or, you know, a job or something like that. I'd be like, oh, but I have to go to Melbourne this weekend, or I have to go to Adelaide on the weekend, or whatever. You know, and you kind of take it for granted and stuff. Whereas now it's kind of like, got a show coming up. It's like, oh, wow, I get to go to Melbourne this weekend and play a show, or I get to go to Adelaide and play a show. You know, and it's something that you really look forward to, rather than just something, I suppose, yeah, like a chore or a job. Obviously one that's very enjoyable, but yeah, you definitely do get a little bit complacent on just how awesome it is being able to do this sort of stuff.
Definitely, yeah. Well, mate, we are going to play Rend Asunder on our show again right now, but what would you like to say to everybody out there before they also not only take a listen to this track, but before they go out and get Divine Counsel in August as well?
Well, there's going to be a few more singles rolling out over the next few months, so keep an eye out for them. We've been hard at work with a couple of other videos as well, so yeah, just keep an eye out on our socials and on YouTube and stuff, because we've got lots of stuff rolling out over the next few months in the lead up to the release. So it's pretty exciting stuff, and yeah, keep an eye out for tour dates and show dates. They should